You're listening to I Love It When, and I'm your host, Mo. I'm a speaker, coach, and connector. You're in the right place if you're looking for some inspiration and you're ready to truly embrace who you are. My intention with this podcast is to help you see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. All right, hello everybody. Welcome back for another episode of I Love It When. I'm very excited to introduce you today to a new friend of mine, Tracy, that I met at the Everett Farmers Market. So, like I always say, I think at every beginning of every episode so far, I want to bring you guys different humans that I meet along my path that I think will add a different perspective and value in some way. And when I stumbled across Tracy's booth at the Everett Farmers Market, I said, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. Trees have feelings? Yes, they do. And I started looking through all of her prints and had the opportunity to chat with her for a minute and hear part of her story. And immediately I knew that I wanted to not only have her on my podcast, but think about some way that we could collaborate, because as many of you know, if you've been following me for any amount of time, I'm all about feelings and all about integrating feelings back into everything that we do, because I think for a long time we've been told that they don't have a place in parts of our lives or all of our lives. And so I'm really excited for you all to meet Tracy and hear a little bit more about her story and what she does now. So thank you so much, Tracy, for saying yes.
Oh, of course. That's my new rule. Say yes. Just say yes. It works. It seems to work. Thank you. My name, Tracy Mazuer, and I am a new artist. This is not something that I knew I even had in me, but I have had many, many feelings my whole life, been a very sensitive human on this planet, trying to negotiate a really cutthroat career in Hollywood, or Hollyweird, as I now say, for almost 30 years of producing network television shows, directing, producing, writing, and clawing my way to the top, as it were, and then leaving because the stress was unbearable. And my last television show became the dynamics. I loved what I was doing, but the dynamics of the people I was working with, the corporate structure I was under, and being the boss, yet having people above you always in anything. There's always going to be somebody, the shareholders. Yeah. If nobody, it's always going to be somebody. And the patriarchy, and me trying to express really icky things that were happening and not being heard, and being called, Tracy's too emotional. Tracy's to this, Tracy's to that, and just finally breaking. Just the stress of it was, for me, after almost 30 years, I'd been through so many great moments too. It's not that it was all bad. It wasn't at all. I have the best friends of my life, but getting to a place where I think I've risen to the top and then still not being taken seriously by by men, by the women who have had to become male-like and aggressive and just icky, that I was cracking, like really cracking, getting sick, just really bad. And I started doodling on my desk calendar. I just closed my door and I had a big bucket of flare markers, and I just started doodling. And from this dark place of rage and sadness and just grief. And I was also triggered from old stuff, triggers everywhere from childhood stuff, and trying to manage it. And from the darkness of that came these trees, and I had no idea what was happening. And they're doodle trees. My husband, when I brought it home as a joke and said, honey, look what I did at work today. Like, I doodled my rage and I put it on the refrigerator, and he goes, oh my God, you're like a toddler savant, because it was just a mess. But from the mess and from the ick came all of these trees, and they kept coming and pouring out. And then I started just hearing their stories. And I'd always been a storyteller. Can you see, look, this is menopause. This is menopause. Not going to lie, hot flash. That's another thing we need to talk about.
Yes.
Right? We need to just
Yes.
this is menopause.
Absolutely.
If you're not watching and you're just listening, I'm sweating. It will end in about 90 seconds. Anyway, so the trees kept pouring out, and then I started hearing their stories, and it was not like I'm listening to an actual tree sitting outside. I'm a storyteller. I've always been a storyteller. I've been a professional writer my entire career. And so these little stories started coming, and I just thought, oh, these are fun, but they were obviously my feelings about sadness and grief. And so the trees started telling my own feelings, but through this unbelievably therapeutic doodle session that just was relentless, and they kept pouring out. I'm talking, it would be one day, it would be 5 trees, and I couldn't stop.
Wow.
And ultimately, long story short, ultimately my husband, my son, friends, and family were like saying, you need to do this. You need to do this. Get out of the biz. You need to follow this. And while I just cried and said, I'm not an artist. I don't know what's happening. I can't stop these trees, but everybody go away. Leave me alone. No, 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 no. The trees, thank God they were so relentless, because I fought it, but everyone and the universe just kept pushing me forward. Literally, my husband and I, we left Los Angeles, we sold our house, we left, and we moved. I mean, at that same time, we left and moved to Bellingham, Washington. Could not get further away unless we were in Alaska. And that has been, it has been terrifying. And at the same time, I cannot imagine, had I not hit that rock bottom in my career and being at the darkest place, like with narcissists and sociopaths, like weirdly converging on me, I guess, to say, get out, get out. And and so now the trees have become literally my entire world. This is my full-time job. It's not, oh, a cute little retirement side hustle. There's no retiring in television. You don't get benefits. You don't have a 401k. You don't have any of that stuff. You don't have health insurance. So the trees freed me. And I had to say yes, but I didn't for a long time. It was other people saying yes on my behalf. That's my proxy, and me just crying, going along. I can't. You
my
can't.
Gosh, I literally get shivers as you're sharing about the trees freed you. And can you share, going back to part of your story, what brought you into television? Because as a storyteller and a writer, I'm sure you've been doing this since you were little.
My dad was a producer director, so it was pure nepotism that got me in. And I had always wanted to be close to my father, who had left us, my mom and me, when I was 6. I'd always wanted to be close to my dad. And since he had a name in the industry, and I wanted to be close to him. And ironically, he hasn't spoken to me in 6 years. The ultimate narcissist of that is, having to really learn over this time that, my dad is and was a narcissist, and his ego was too fragile to handle some certain things that are too long to go into. Not afraid to share them, just too long to go into. And and I couldn't see that I was going into the industry to get him to love me and put me first in his world. But now that I'm out, I can see that, because that was, in order to do what I did, I had to have such an armor. and I'm small, and my stature is small. I'm 5'2" and like an eighth, and the eighth really matters. And so I had to, like when you see a bear, you're supposed to get bigger, right? I had to get bigger. I had to get bigger, and I had to not be sensitive. I had to be like the men and just be an aloof asshole in so many situations and become a person that I didn't want to be, and but just took on that persona so that I could pay the mortgage or do the things that need to be done. And you lose yourself because you're just trying to survive, and you're tired because that's what the industry does. It just makes you tired. And to be a woman, to rise up there, you have to behave in certain ways. And I always tried in my career to bring my sensitivity into it. And it most often didn't work in my favor. It did for me with my staff in most cases. And I started out as a peon, but I moved up to an executive producer and had been an executive producer for a really long time. But I was always criticized that I care too much about my staff and not enough about the show. And that is such an it's like either or. It's like, no, wait, no. Let's get this. If I care about people and I'm kind and vulnerable and Brene Brown didn't exist. Glennon Doyle didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
And so you're screaming in the desert but no, if I treat my staff well and I respect them, the show will be that much better.
Yes.
It's not you either care about your staff or you care about your show. If you care about your staff, and this goes to anything, it doesn't have to be television. It can be if you're an accountant, if you're an engineer, if you care about the people around you, everyone, all boats rise.
Yes, totally.
But I was always criticized for that. And if my response when I'm angry, if I get really angry, I cry.
Me too. Yeah.
Men don't do that. So for those of, it's like when you're crying, you look, quote, weak, when in fact, this isn't weakness. This is rage. Yes. I want to cut you.
Yes.
I want to harm you.
Yeah.
And I don't have the language right now because my emotions, and I was in therapy the entire time I was in television. It's not like I wasn't aware. It's just, this is me as a human being having big feelings, and I can express it in writing, but I can't be angry and just debate. And I just cry.
Yeah.
I would be on the side of a stage enraged and crying with, at one point, I remember I was doing the old show called Deal or No Deal. And I was so angry at my boss. I was so angry with him that I was sobbing and snot coming out of my, like sobbing, like so angry, like he had treated me so poorly. And I can't not, that is just who I am. And can I curse on? I'll say just,
yes,
I was a really fucking good producer, director, and writer. And I had earned my stripes, but still, that's my being. I felt things deeply, and it's just not okay. You get fired. Get fired. I got the last show with all the craziness for expressing my truth. I was fired. The sociopaths are still there, but I was fired, which was great, thank God all of that happened. And in television, you get fired a bunch. It doesn't, that's not even there's no ego attached to this. Like, yeah, fine. F off, goodbye, pay me out. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm on my way. But having big feelings meant that you get fired,
Yeah.
even if you're good.
Thank you so much for sharing that. There's been so many times when I've had so many conversations with people about tears in the workplace, because that would be my reaction completely, until I got to a place where I was able to start verbalizing more and more. And when I started to understand that tears actually contain toxins, so it's part of our body releasing and actually
Oh,
cleansing itself too. It's a really good thing to do. Do you feel like, I'm wondering, did you see pieces of your trees in your work throughout the years? Did they come before this part? Not until, okay.
no.
Okay.
I had always been a doodler as a little girl, all through elementary, all through school. I would always doodle. I was always a really, and I still, I have lots of anxiety and things that I've always had to manage, like so many of us.
Mhm.
And I come from, the big T trauma from childhood. And I would always doodle and I always wanted to draw, but I never really could. And so nothing came out of my doodles, right? It was just, but they were colorful and fun, but there nothing emerged from them. And that's what I think was so weird. And like I did not know that this was in me. And was it in me the whole time, or was it only in me as an adult? Did it only I'm just saying this for the first time, I'm just thinking
Yeah.
this out loud for the first, did it literally grow inside of me, like just where it's just coming and then it becomes, and and I don't know. And it's I did have, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and when I was little there were trees that kept me safe.
Hmm.
And because I was an only child, with my stepfather was I was molested as a kid. I was alone a lot with him, and so I had a whole fantasy world in the trees. That was when I was 8, 9, and 10.
Hmm.
After that, because we lived on a large, like 65 acres of land. After that, we lived in the city, and so I don't know, did they stay in me? Nobody walks around and goes, oh, I hate trees. Like, we all love trees, but it wasn't like I was the big tree hugger. It
Yeah.
wasn't like any of that. And then since 1991, so when I was in my mid 20s,
Mhm.
um, late 20s, my husband and I moved to Los Angeles. There's not a lot of trees. And so people think, oh my God, trees have been so important. I'm like, when I was 9, yes, and I love to hike, and yes, I love all these things, but
Yeah.
I
It's not like you
the
had an
trees,
unusual love for trees. Yeah.
no, the trees led me to them.
Hmm.
And it was only when I read, have you read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
Yes. I love that book.
That is the book that completely changed everything for me,
Hmm.
because that's when, because I didn't know what was happening. And I
Mhm.
couldn't answer people when they're like, oh, is this a maple tree that you drew? Can you draw a ponderosa? I'm like, I don't know anything about trees, people. I don't know. They found me.
Yes.
They came to me. And if anybody, if you're listening and you have not read Big Magic,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
get the audiobook, listen to it,
Hmm.
get the actual
Hmm.
book, read it,
Yeah,
all
I
of
think
the
the
above.
concept that you're reminding me of that she talks about in there is the idea finds you. And if
Yes,
you don't take that idea and do something with it, it'll find someone else.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
I love that.
And thank God the trees were so relentless, because
Yes.
I said no. I was hard no, hard no. I'm not an
Wow.
artist. This is not my jam. I am not going to go into this. I'm 50, I was 56,
Uh-huh.
56 years old. I'm not going to start something new and be scared for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And they stayed with me long enough for me to say yes
Wow.
and not go to another person. it freaks me out now to think, oh my God, Trace, what if you if they hadn't been so relentless? And then it has gone into, because the trees have so many big feelings that I get to, I don't know, I'm not outside listening to a real tree. Their magic is just in my whole being now. I can sound bananas, but it's how I'm able to process my feelings. And having come from my television career I did reality shows and daytime talk shows and game shows, and I got to meet and interview people at such great length that I got to know the essence of so many people with the best of circumstances and the worst of circumstances. So I've been able to absorb the human experience. I think that unlike most people, in reality shows, we do, in the Bachelor, all the different shows, right? We do confession cams.
Yeah.
Like, you hear people's deepest, darkest secrets. You get to know people in a very strange way and uncover who they are. And so I bring all that with me, and then the trees. And then I think we go in this, I don't know, this little magic bubble, and the feelings come out. So when all my trees are telling stories, it might be from me or an experience that stayed with me from someone else. I mean, I've known and interviewed and worked with so many people from all different walks of life. And so I think it gives the trees an endless source of storytelling, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm wondering, as you're drawing the trees, do the names just come to you as you're drawing them?
That's the fun part. All of it is fun. But then the names, like, I love, I also have a whole names that pop into my head all the time. And I have a whole running list of names, and it's just waiting for that particular tree. It's like, oh, okay. So, Jingle Bells is coming. Okay. All right. We'll see how that works. But yeah, when I'm drawing them, I just feel a name that can be anything from Pixie Nickel Dimer. Okay, Pixie Nickel Dimer. And then another name that came through was Jodine. And I was like, Jolene? Like, I know the name Jolene, Dolly Parton, we've got that. And it's like, nope, Jodine. Okay. All right. And everybody that comes to that tree goes, oh, look, it's Jolene. I'm like, and then I have to be weird and go, it's Jodine. It's a tree drawing.
Very specific.
Like, sorry, but it's just, it's Jodine. I'm sorry. Like, so weird, right? And and then a tree comes through and it's just Cheryl. Oh, okay.
Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl. It is the most, sometimes in the beginning, in the very beginning, it would be because of my friends. I would think about one of my girlfriends, and like Heather is one of my first trees, and she's super popular, and Heather is just Heather. And but then as they kept going, I would just hear these hilarious, Mama Forenza. Who's that? I have no idea. But this is Mama Forenza. She is a fierce mom. She will kill to protect her babies. And it's like, okay, Mama Forenza it is. So it is the most amount of fun.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what you and I were talking about right before you hit record.
I was just going to say the same thing. Yes.
Is that the guilt I feel with having fun? How can fun equal success? Because that doesn't compute from any. Before I was in television, I was in radio,
Yeah.
like everything has to be stressful and aggressive and kill yourself. And if you
Yes.
only put in 12 hours today, you sucked today. You really
Yes.
sucked.
Yes.
And and so this is the most confusing part about this, is
Mm-hmm.
that I am having fun and it is successful. And that feels bad.
Yes, it feels illegal. It feels like
Yes.
there's some days I look up and I'm like,
Yeah.
this somebody's gonna get me for doing this. Like
Yeah.
somebody's gonna take me down because
Yeah.
this is not what I've been trained to do. This is not what
No.
we've been trained to do as Western
No.
society. Yeah.
No. And I mean, and now and then take it to, like, right now what you're doing, we're hanging out, like it's
Yeah.
just fun, and that's
Yes.
your work. Then take it to, I have a whole bunch of pens and cool paper, and
Oh my
now I'm
God.
going to doodle. Like, I should work all day and then
Yes.
try to doodle at night after work. Oh, but
Yeah.
wait, the doodling
Is the
is my
work.
work.
Yes. One of my friends is actually just preparing to leave her current job, which she's been doing in the real estate world. And she's diving into, she's not sure what yet, but she's always collected pens. She's always collected teas. She's collected all these different things. And now she's like, I'm going to play. Like, that's going to be my business. I'm going to play and I'm going to find what way I can serve people through this play. And it's the weirdest. It's so fun to watch. And at the same time, I know it's really strange to go through that process yourself, of relearning what your life can look like.
It is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is really hard. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, this is emotionally and
Mm-hmm.
personally the hardest thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is me, just like it is you.
Yeah.
It is just you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're banking on you. I'm
Yeah.
banking on just me. It's not somebody else's television show that I go in and run, or,
No.
where I can go in and do that. This is banking on just me, my raw self. I got to take off all that armor,
Yeah.
right? And now it's just me, raw,
Yeah.
and the most vulnerable. And it's very hard work doing your own thing. But when you're having fun, we have to learn, and I think we have to learn from each other, and that's where women come in. Women need each other more than ever right now,
Yes. Yeah.
because men know how to do that. They know how to have a job and a career, and on Tuesday they're golfing and that's their work.
Mm-hmm.
We've never done that.
Mm-mm.
We've never done that. Like, even feeling guilty for taking a lunch
Mm-hmm.
out of the office, let alone
Yes.
a golfing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
Yeah.
get so,
Taking breaks, relaxing, finding ways to just be. That's not,
yeah,
that's not what we've been taught at all.
no. And we
Yeah.
have to work 10 times as hard to get half as far.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been my experience, my
Yeah.
whole career.
Have you had, I'm sure there's people that are watching you that have been inspired by what you've done. Has anybody shared their stories with you about how your work has impacted them?
It has been amazing. It has been amazing, and humbling. And I do feel like it's a there, I'm not going to say a disconnect, because I couldn't feel more connected to that person or those people.
Yeah.
But I feel like, oh, it wasn't me. It's just the trees. The trees made it happen. That's what I sound bonkers. But it's like,
Don't sound bonkers at all.
right? It's like, I just said yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just listening. And I'm just listening to whatever this is. If it's the divine, whatever we can call this, the universe. For me, it's the universe. That's
Mm-hmm.
it, that knowing that a tiny little story, my stories are very short, but there's a beginning, middle, and end. Every tree that tells their story, and it might be 3 sentences. It might, and one is just 2 words, which you saw, she wept.
Yes.
2 words that tell an entire lifetime of a story. And it's only 2 words. And we cry together, we laugh together, we share together. In now we started with our little 10 by 10 tent, and now we're at 10 by 20. And I do this with my husband. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. We have our 10 by 20 booth, which is just a healing place. And the beauty of it that gives me the most amount of hope is that men come in and men cry. And men feel. I had this beautiful man, husband he was in there. His wife was kind of on the outside, but he was in there, and he just started crying. And he goes, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know what's happening to me. And I said, it's okay. It's okay. It happens here all the time. He goes, I don't cry. And he goes, and he had read Ravina, which is the story, is my raven. Her name is Ravina, and she has a little bit of a longer story and about being colorful and having big feelings. And he read that and he burst into tears and said, I don't know why I'm crying. And all I could say to him was, number 1, it's okay. Number 1, 2, you give me hope. That men crying is what we need. And it's okay. And this is a little space. Your heart allowed a little tiny space, a little tiny safe space right here, right now, for you to feel deeply. And I mean, what more could I ever ask for? And to have that, and that is such a normal thing now. And we joke about it. Like at one time there's 3 of us sobbing and laughing because we're crying, right? Because we're just sobbing together because of shared experience, because of, I didn't realize the extent to which my words could affect another person. I really didn't. And when we first started this business, I was like, we'll do the trees and the colorful, whimsical trees, but no stories. No stories. Nobody's going to care about my stories. They're not going to get it. It's not going to make sense. There's nothing out there that people can say, oh, this is like that. It's just not. And no stories. And the website, the first version of the website had trees with story, tree without story, same price, but you just don't need to be bothered with the story because you're not going to like my. And then now it's not even an option to not have the story, because everybody is like, oh, but the story and the tree together is what makes the feeling complete.
Oh my God, I love this so much. I was literally just talking to a group before we got on this podcast today, who are thinking about having me out to run and facilitate a retreat for their team. And I was talking about exactly this. I said, people don't understand how powerful they are. So they quiet their voice. They don't speak at all. They don't contribute because they think, oh, I'm just one person. There's not much. And that has been a theme, I feel like, throughout my life, of helping people and helping myself realize that, your voice has a lot of power. The stories reach people. It's like we've all been designed to reach different groups of people. So we need more leaders. We need more people, leaders as in just everyday humans speaking and sharing. So much. I love that. Storytelling.
And the irony of it, I spent my entire career telling other people's stories. I could care less about this, but I'm going to say it, just putting it out there. I have 4 Emmy nominations for writing. Stories, other people's stories. And I did not believe in any way that my story that I was putting with the tree, that these stories mattered to anyone to the degree that I said, we'll sell the trees, but no stories. And it was only when I got out, because then, of course, COVID hit the second we really started all of this. This wasn't a COVID thing. This was a pre-COVID thing that then COVID hit. And it was just the the online desert where you're not connecting to anyone, right? With the website and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until 2020 when we were able to go out into the world and do a farmer's market and then start to do art festivals where I could see the connection of somebody like you walking in, and I could see your face or your body language, or, just the connection that we make together, that it's like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Trees, I stand corrected. We need the stories.
Yeah.
We need the stories. The combination of art and storytelling is what will change the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's my tiny little contribution.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been the most healing thing for me. And I get emails from people, most beautiful emails. I hear the most devastating stories, the most beautiful stories. Mm-hmm. And I know that our connection to each other is what makes the world a better place. It's not it's not me. It's this plus this equals strength.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just
basically you're giving people an opportunity to co-create with you.
Yes.
I love
connect.
That. Yeah.
And grow. Connect and grow. Connect and grow. And it's like, oh, this is why
so beautiful.
I'm on the planet. All that TV shit. Yes, it was great. Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. This is why I'm on the planet.
Mm-hmm. I love what you talked and what you shared about with men that come into your tent too, because I'm also seeing a pattern of, I keep getting put, it seems like I refer to the universe too. The universe keeps putting me in places with more men. And I'm like, this is so interesting, because I definitely have always connected, I think, better with women. However, I have 3 brothers. My mom talked about feelings growing up. And so I keep getting put in this place where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm creating a safe space, yes, for them to cry. It's not unusual for men to cry during the exercises that I run. It's like they've finally been given permission. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And like you said, every time I tell them, you have given me such hope for humanity because you're willing to go there.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yeah.
Because look, we women, we have to take over the world, because the men are doing a terrible, terrible job. Yeah. And so to be able to bring our little pieces together and make those connections and help facilitate feelings and making them is the normalizing big feelings.
Yes.
And not making that that's not a bad thing. My language on this isn't great right now, but it's like, if you have big feelings, that's a big plus.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes, we have to learn to manage them. Yes, I've had every kind of therapy for trauma, but then when I was in the hellscape of my last show, I put myself into dialectical behavioral therapy because I was being so triggered. I was being so triggered because people in HR at the top weren't listening to me, and I was being silenced. And coming from abuse and rape, being silenced, and I was being triggered and trying to hold that in and keep it in and not be triggered and be a grown up and say, I'm 55 years old, I'm safe, I'm a grown up, no one can hurt me. I mean, I was cracking all over the place and put myself in dialectical behavioral therapy so I could manage these big feelings because I was being terrorized. And yes, we can't just vomit up our big feelings everywhere. It's not always appropriate, and it's not always going to be in our best interest. And at the same time, learning how to manage our emotions appropriately, but not shoving them away to just be tough and an asshole and have no feeling, and then become this stoic who's just that doesn't work either.
Yeah. And I love so much of the research that I've found in the last few years. What has helped me to start my business is research by like Susan Scott, who wrote Fierce Conversations, or Anise Kavanagh, who's written Contagious You, Contagious Culture, because they have the data to show that soft skills soft skills actually brings you more success. It's actually 85% of what brings you success in your career. And so this data that's coming out now that supports that I can now go to men who are mostly the CEOs or the executives and the leaders and say, hey, look at this. This is why feelings need to be included. It's data. So
yeah,
I love that that's happening more and more.
Yeah. And I mean, Brene Brown,
yes.
you know, and the Susan Cain with Quiet, and now Bittersweet, and like it's like, oh
yes, God, yes.
This is our time, right? This is our time. And when rights are being taken away from us, which is another insane thing, that we keep moving forward with strength, because we do have the data. Yes. We do have these things that need to be incorporated into work life. And now, and you know, COVID has sucked, and it's also made people see that we need time to be in our jammies.
We do. Yeah, it's been a really good wake-up call in that way for people that slowing down is actually, we're not supposed to go at the pace that we've been taught to go at. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm so grateful for all of these, and you know, the Adam Grants. I mean, I'm just obsessed with all of them, just like you are, right? Yes. And so totally. Knowing that we now have this backing us up gives us a little bit more strength to go forward and explore all of these new avenues that we're all choosing to do. And whether it starts as like a little side hustle, yay, do it. Yes. Do it.
Yes. I love, so the last question that I have for you is actually about your vision for the trees. Is there something that you see beyond what you're doing now, or are you just going and staying in the moment and being in the flow, or is there a vision that you have?
I am going to start applying for grants now that the summer craziness is behind us.
And you must have done a fair every week. It looked like
at least one every week. That's my husband. He's the entrepreneur brain.
Solid, yeah.
Okay. But I want to apply for grants now. I think that the trees belong in schools. I think that because I can make them big, you know, they can be giant posters in elementary schools and high schools. And I think that I've met so many teachers that have come through, so many social workers, so many people who have bought trees, or I've been able to donate for a school office, you know, like for the counselor at the high school, for his or her office, that will help connect in a softer, artistic way. I don't even know yet the psychology of all of it, but that kind of art therapy approach. So that's what I see on my nonprofit side of being able to donate in a big way to schools. And then I'm working on Ravina, my Raven, becoming a children's book. And it's the story of a bright, colorful raven who has some struggles because she has big feelings, and all the ravens are, they must portend death and doom and despair, but she is bright and shiny. And how will she survive in that? It's somewhat semi-autobiographical. Like, you know, she's still a raven. She's still gonna, you know, she's still gonna eat garbage and still have her raven nature, which is awesome. And she's gonna be kind while she's doing it. So that is the biggest thing that I'm working on right now, and expanding into more children's books. And that's the goal. And of course, yes, I would like to be in Pottery Barn or anthropology with various sundry items. we'll say, it would be really neat to
That
have,
would be cool.
or little kid sheets for their beds that have big tree and on it, or big wall art for them. And
well, and I love that. There's no better way to integrate feelings and integrate these trees into everyday items that you're looking at all the time.
That are just, So that's the goal. And just all I want to do is keep learning about. Now I'm obsessed with trees. I'm obsessed with birds. I'm obsessed with raven, keep learning and just saying yes.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do is be fearless and say yes to whatever, and being open to however this might shift. Never in a million years would I ever have imagined I'd be sitting here in Bellingham looking out my window at these big, beautiful trees, talking to you, having a cup of tea, and then saying, well, I'm going to go doodle now.
Yes.
Never.
It's the best.
Never.
The best.
Did I ever imagine this? So I have to remain open to whatever comes my way. So I'm just saying yes.
I love it. I'm excited to watch your journey and to be a part
of it. I'm excited to watch yours.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. If people want to find you, what's the best way to find you and your work?
Everything is Trees Have Feelings. Okay. So at Trees Have Feelings for social, and then treeshavefeelings.com for website, and even that, Trees Have Feelings. Like, what a silly thing, right? And now it's just crazy. My whole world is so wide open.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, I always like to end each episode with your current I love it one. So what would you say your favorite I love it one is right now?
I love it when I just allow the magic to happen.
Oh, that's a good one.
And saying yes. Yes. Which is now my theme for the day, right? Just saying yes, or my life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your journey.
I'm so glad
that we met. It's really an amazing journey. Me too.
I'm so glad that we met.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, for those of you that are listening, I'm going to put all her contact information in the text, of course, and thank you so much for watching and listening, and please go find her on Instagram, find her website, check out her work. I also wanted to make sure to mention I love your feelings guide on your website, where you go to the area where the feelings and you find the trees that are associated with those feelings. I was like, yes, you can use that on the daily. Like, yes, the feelings guide is fantastic. So lots of resources on her website. Make sure to check it out.
Oh, thank you.